I have with me two-time NASCAR Truck Series race winner Randy Tolsma. Randy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, first off, how did you get into auto racing?
That probably began, my father, originally my grandfather, was involved in the little racetrack that was in our town, Meridian Speedway, just as a, support, and, I wouldn't even say promoter, but just somebody who worked at the Speedway. And then my father just had a love for automobiles and racing, and he began to race at the local track. So, when I was extremely young, I knew it was his racing. My uncles didn't race, so, it was his family and friends all raced at the local, bull ring, and, it became a goal and a somewhat distant dream to think about driving just at the most local level. And then when I was 9 years old, my dad had bartered for a go-kart. He did some work for somebody that wanted to trade an older go-kart for the work, and voila, I had my first kart. So that began the trek. With older equipment, constantly updating and becoming better and more improved through karting. And then I shot my first midget when I was 15.
Okay. Yeah, my family in general is really into racing. Like, I've went to the Indianapolis 500 every year since 2004, and, well, my father and his father before him, and various other family members, they've been going to it since the, 1970s, and basically I've gone into various other forms of racing over the years.
Yeah, that was being in Meridian, Idaho, you didn't have much for options. You had really the choice of Meridian Speedway, or then later there was another racetrack that started up locally, but it did quite well for a racetrack. It was successful. It was they had multiple divisions, and that was it. Until later, in the late 70s when NASCAR began to get on TV, but I grew up, Indy morning listening to the race on radio before that even was televised. So it was just part of family and history, and I fell in love with it before I probably even had a true appreciation for it.
Yeah, in my area, there's two local racetracks. There's the Osceola Dragway, which is probably about 5 miles from my house, and then over in South Bend, I live in Elkhart, in South Bend, basically the next city over, they have the South Bend Motor Speedway, which mostly has stock car races.
Yeah, we the local racetrack there had some super modified back in the day. It had the stock car classes. It had a small division of open wheel, small division of stock car.
Yeah. Also slightly further away is Plymouth Speedway, which over the summer saw a USAC sprint car race there.
Yeah, well, you grew up in, being in the Indiana area, obviously. That's just, the Midwest is such a hub for motorsports and racing in general, all throughout that area. So that was certainly an aspiration to get back to the Midwest at some point and race. The opportunities to race, multiple times a week and multiple, cars and divisions, and obviously with USAC being, out of Indiana, the opportunity to run for national championships, compete at the highest level, and in the midget sprint cars and Silver Crown divisions was always something I wanted to do and dreamt of doing. I just didn't know how I was ever going to get there early on, but the roads somehow opened and opportunities came, and I made my way back there.
That's good to hear. Now, what have you been up to since you stopped competing in NASCAR?
It was certainly a change. If like many racers, you grow up with that dream and that hope to get the opportunity to try to make a living, behind the wheel, and that was obviously an opportunity that I took advantage of and got to enjoy for a few years. As soon as it was over, it was time to figure out how to make a living, and take the skills that I'd learned through racing and from learning of being part of teams and successful teams and being around owners who are obviously successful in their business ventures and just found myself working for some of the automotive manufacturers and driving schools and experiential marketing for the automotive industry. And then that led to a full-time career at a company called AMCI, which is based out of Southern California, that works with multiple OEMs. And we do, performance driving schools, team driving schools, experiential, marketing of product, just any way, shape, or form we can get somebody behind the wheel of a car to experience the product with trained subject matter experts. Then we do new model launch, in dealership training, in dealership coaching, dealer meetings, and then we're also the largest independent testing company of automotive. So I'm Vice President of Operations for AMCI and have been for almost 10 years now. And it's been interesting to see the other side of the industry. Racing obviously has its place and how important it is to safety measures and where technology comes from through the racing channel to find its way into the OEM manufacturers and then purchasing of a car is a big task, and it's fun to be a part of helping people think or make the right decision there.
Well, it's good to hear that you have remained busy and have also been pretty successful.
Yeah, it's certainly been busy. It's a challenge. We staff quite a few freelance, temporary hire employees, and to help keep a base of talent available and help that talent progress and build careers, along with doing really good work and executing for our clients like we need to, but also doing it in a safe manner to where it keeps the industry flourishing. It's been fun. It's been a different challenge, and I've learned a lot, and it's something became incredibly passionate about, which took some time. Once racing was over, it's all you knew, but there's certainly traits that I gained over time through racing and through friendships and teamwork that have paid huge dividends to the business world as well.
All right. Also, why did you stop competing in NASCAR after the 2002 season?
It was a long story. It's utterly too long. I'd given it everything I had. I probably wasn't the most talented, to be truthful. I was always really extremely dedicated and pushed real hard. I loved it. I gave it my all. I was extremely dedicated to it, and I had the support of my then wife Tiffany. And then we had a son, and at the same time I was driving for Rizzy Motorsports, and I was still under contract for them. But 9/11 happened, and a lot of funding, froze up that little bit, and it really came down to the place that the opportunities that came my way were mediocre at best, and I didn't want to do it mediocre. I either wanted to have a shot to win and compete, or I didn't see the the reasoning in doing it. You know, I've given it my all to get there, and to do it any less than that, you know, not that I wouldn't have given it my all, you know, after that, but to know that I could only be mediocre at best with the equipment given me, I just didn't feel like that's how I wanted to end it. And then having a son and taking life away from what I could give him because I was pursuing my dream, I felt it was just time. And, you know, something came my way, and it was good, and it was a good team where it was good team chemistry. It was funded properly, not incredibly, but properly, where we could go dig hard and work hard and you know, have some success. I would have been all for it. But if I was going to give it my all and still run mid-pack and, you know, take time away from my family and, you know, so on and so on and so on, I just didn't look fruitful to me any longer. And so at that point, I had to figure out what else to do, and off I went. And the more you're away, you're out of the picture. And, you know, I was getting older, where the drivers were getting younger. There was a lot of money coming into the sport that, you know, at the very end, I remember Bobby Hamilton coming to me to say, what do you have? Do you have any kind of money? Because that guy over there, and he pointed to a driver, he said, he's going to pay me enough that he could wreck every week and I make money. And right now, he could win every week and I still lose money. And I said, and if you're any kind of a businessman, you know the decision you have to make. And we worked really hard to try to find some money. I spent a year doing everything I could to secure funds. And it was after 9/11, so things were short and tight and didn't produce. So off I went and had to, you know, somewhat sever ties to that dream and go on. And certainly hurt. It was probably, you know, it was like death to me. I'd lost my childhood dream. I didn't know who my identity was. I didn't know who I was. You know, I didn't know what made me happy, you know, beyond my son and my wife at the time, and, you know, which was certainly more than enough. But, you know, you want a career and you want to do something. So began to carve a new path that way.
Well, I understand why you stopped racing. Certainly to spend more time with your family, and also a lack of real opportunity. Although you said didn't think you were that talented, I wouldn't say you should sell yourself that short. I mean, you won 2 National Series races in NASCAR, which that's a lot more than a lot of people can say.
Yeah, you know, I had my style, and, you know, my style was smooth, calculated. You know, I really liked, you know, wore out racetracks. I liked flat tracks where it put the you know, the driver back in more control. You know, I certainly liked the short tracks. You know, I won on 2 short tracks. And, you know, I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud of the way I drove. I believe I was better than sometimes I you know, showed in the record books. I think one year we led the Truck Series. We led 6 different races with less than a handful of laps and had mechanical failures. So, you know, the 2 wins should have been, you know, 8 to 10 wins easily, and maybe that would have paved a different path for my career. So, you know, there's just, you know, there's so much talent out there. You see it day in and day out, guys at the local level, in whatever car it might be, that just, you know, have a innate connection to, you know, the feel and the drive of the car. But it's, you know, racing became so much more than that. You know, it is communication and the feedback to the team of what's needed. It is the, you know, making adjustments, reading the racetrack throughout the race. You know, there's so often, you know, everybody wants to put in, you know, the feel in the driver and the capability of what he does behind the wheel. But, you know, I think where they missed it is what's being done, kind of, you know, behind the visor, between the eyes, and just kind of how they're relating and what's needed. I think Kyle Busch obviously is extremely talented behind the wheel and makes his car do what many others can't do. But if you pay attention to Kyle, he normally isn't that great early on. He has a way to adjust his car throughout the race to find out what he needs at the very end. Ron Hornaday was the same. Ron made his car, or his truck at the time, drive well so he could race at the end. And so he could take, more risk and drive harder when it went green, white, checkered to figure out a way to win. Michael Schumacher, if you, do much research on him, wasn't just on tracks. He made the team believe in him, and he built teams by being able to hire the right people to work with him and build a program. And I wished I knew then what I know now, and I would get it a different way and bring something different to the table as a driver. You move so quick through the racing ranks, you don't have much time to pause and think and how to tackle it or really how to get your mind or mindset around it of how to make yourself better. And what I've learned afterwards, if I could go back and apply that, I think it would be been a better race car driver. So thanks for the compliment. I'm certainly proud of all I got to accomplish. I wish I would have accomplished more, but I think that's probably every driver that's ever raced would say the same thing.
Well, you're welcome. Now, also in 1997, you won a Truck Series race at Mesa Marine Raceway, but you also failed to qualify for 4 races before that. What was that season like to you, to have such a, frankly, a jump in performance?
That's probably what I probably loved about that era the best is, it was a Brickyard 400 before we decided to even have a team. And within 6 weeks of deciding, Tiffany and I moved down to North Carolina and started Express Motorsports with obviously the support and the financial support of Steve and Joan Coulter of IWX Motor Freight. So Express Motorsports was birthed in Mooresville, North Carolina, with one truck, two engines, and 10,000 square foot of empty shop space. We began to put a team together and hired who we thought were the best that we could get for a known driver into the NASCAR world. We went to our first race in Phoenix in the fall of '96, and I think out of the 70 trucks there, we were 10th fastest in the first practice, and I didn't even know where reverse was. I had to ask on the radio, which the eyes rolled on the crew, and they were nervous of what was going to happen. And we went out. We were 10th fastest in the first practice. We qualified 15th. We crashed early on, just as that was pure driver mistake, and went and ran Vegas and crashed, and came back the next season and missed some races, couldn't find what we were needing, and I think it was, I think teamwork wise, there was a lack of belief in the driver. I think I didn't know what I needed in the vehicles, and nobody was helping me try to figure that out. I don't think we were using the suppliers needed to make the trucks the best they could be. And, through a little pause in our schedule and kind of taking a breath to figure out what we needed, we went and then hired a crew chief by the name of Dave Fuge. And Dave was, I knew Dave from the Northwest. He had a lot of success in NASCAR and knew what he needed. And he needed to rejuvenate his career as a crew chief, and I needed help, and we needed each other, and that began to build the team, kind of what Dave knew we needed, and build a team around me, and we began to hire, and it's funny, Scott Miller, that's the VP of competition for NASCAR at the time, he was my shock engineer for a couple races. It was a mixture. Ernie Cope, who's with team. Tim Shutt, who went on to win at Joe Gibbs in the Busch Series and or the Xfinity Series. And so it was a team effort, and Dave began to teach me what I needed, meaning he really pushed me to say, you've got to give me better feedback. Here's what, here are traits that drivers have. Do this, do that, and adjust your style. And he began to help me determine what I needed to do fast. We also, because I was such a new driver from such a different type of car, he could push harder to try new things. So we were very advanced on our shock technology, on our suspension. We were ahead of the curve because I was willing to try it. I wasn't so stuck in my ways because I didn't come to the stock car ranks. That it really allowed us to progress much faster. So then in our only 13th start in the Truck Series, we won. And, and one, Ron Hornaday led a lot of that race, but I ran second. And then Ron harmed a rear end gear and had to go out of the race. And then I was, I think I was running second or third at the time and had to make a pass on Mike Wallace to win the race and went on to win. At that point, from that point on, I think we ran top 5s, top 10s very consistently with a non-supported cup, not a non-cup affiliated program. So at the time, which there was a few, Hornaday was Bernhardt, Craig was Hendrick, the Roush trucks. There was a large contingent of cup affiliated teams. So to do so as an independent was something pretty special.
Yes, it was. I heard you mention that at your debut at Phoenix that there were 70 trucks entered. I mean, just to hear that, it's just astounding. When you see the amount of cars or trucks that get entered for standard NASCAR races these days.
Yeah, when the Truck Series started, obviously, it was a new division in NASCAR, and there were no established programs that dominated. So I think the cost of entry was much easier at the time. When the Truck Series first started, they didn't have live pit stops, so everything was a halfway break, which I loved. The tires getting wore out. Coming from an open wheel background, and understanding throttle control, that just played into my favor. I wasn't abusive on tires on the way I drove. I didn't drive a truck bound up. I like to roll through a corner and apply the throttle a little bit later. So my style played into that halfway break. I remember races where Greg Biffle would take off in front of me and be gone, and then once we got to halfway, I passed him and was leaving halfway because of my style. So that allowed teams to come in and not have to have the cost of a very competitive pit crew. And also, we ran a lot of short tracks, so bodies didn't matter as much. Even some of the engine combinations didn't matter as much because you were racing on, in Monroe, Washington, at Evergreen Speedway with a War 8 5/8 mile track where you couldn't put the power down anyway, and the aero didn't matter much. So, drivers at a local level could get in a ride there and be somewhat competitive. That I think gave hope, at that time. And also NASCAR was at its peak, in those eras. So in the Truck Series, we would do a standalone then at Texas and have almost 80,000 people on the grandstand. So it was at the height of what NASCAR was at the time. And it had the fan interest, it had the team interest, and, it had everything going for it. There's also then you had more probably traveling and national series. You had ASA where teams, a lot of the Truck Series teams early on were from the ASA ranks. ASA teams then built trucks. Now there's fewer and fewer national traveling series that build teams and let teams grow at a smaller, more local level to then progress. Now it's a big jump in order to jump into those ranks.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it's certainly changed over the years. it's definitely become more expensive. Like you said, there's also no or less national touring series from under different sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, racing's, it competes with more. I kind of go back when I talked about, the early days of Meridian Speedway, where I grew up in Meridian, Idaho. If you go back and read the paper, there was 3,500 to 4,000 people in the grandstand. If you go to Kearney Bowl out of Fresno, there you see 5,000 and 7,000 people in the grandstand because it was one of the few entertainment offerings. I don't know that you have movie theaters like they are today. I don't know you have, you think of everything. You're like, if anybody has a passion for anything, there's an entertainment value for them to go do. So you take more diverse, opportunities, and it spreads people. And, it becomes challenging. We're very critical of racing today, and the fans on Twitter and the fans on, social media want to just constantly critique everybody, every driver, every thing, every sanctioning body, every TV broadcast. And what I find that sad is not that you can't have a critique, but I don't even like reading it. It becomes negative in my mind, to where it's a sport I love and a sport that gave so much to me, yet we're so critical of everything, where once we accepted that, I just wanted to go to the Indianapolis 500 and watch the race. And I didn't even think about what they might be doing wrong as a sanctioning body. It was the race. And you were walking, this, and now we begin to define and expect absolute perfection on a day-by-day basis, when truthfully, everybody's trying hard to please the fan at an extent more so than they ever have, yet there's not a way to please everybody, and so it's almost it becomes a negative. It almost becomes a loss somewhere of trying so hard. And I hope our sport sees, and maybe it takes that going back all the way back to the short track ranks, and kind of building a fan base again. I don't know. But I hate to see the negative side of our sport today. And I just always ask a fan, think about, having 50,000 people come into your job and critique you every day, all day, and see how you succeed. And I think that's a challenge the sport has right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one. You mentioned the Indianapolis 500, and before you started to compete in NASCAR, you entered the 1996 Indianapolis 500 but failed to qualify. What was this experience like?
Oh, it was a dream come true. I was in Indianapolis racing, full time. Supplementing racing by painting helmets and doing paintings of race cars, but trying to survive as a driver. And as the IRL began and the separation happened, I was one of the more prominent USAC drivers at the time, competing in the Silver Crown Series and the midgets, for the most part, and was known as a pavement specialist. And there were opportunities that came, and the McCormick Motorsports had an opportunity for me to do rookie orientation, and then try to qualify for the 500. My rookie orientation was done in a '94 Lola Ford, and I think I went out and ran a few laps and got comfortable in the car. It's the first time I'd ever sat in a rear engine car or an Indy car ever, and ran my first few practice laps and felt comfortable. And so to do a rookie orientation program, you go out and run 10 segments between speeds of 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour. And so I went back out and ran my first 10 laps, and USAC was overseeing the rookie test at the time, and so they got approval I could run 20 laps, the next 10 in the segment. And then because that 10 had went so well, they said I could continue to go, and I ran the first 30 laps all in a row. And I just had one more 10-lap segment towards the end of the day where the veteran driver would watch me and give some critique and see how we did. And so we fueled up, put some tires on it, debriefed, talked, about what I needed or what I was feeling. And I went out and ran a 10-lap ran and caught some draft and had a good run. And I think I ran 2:15 easily, without pushing at all. And, that was it. And then Lynn St. James went into the primary car, the car I did rookie orientation program in. And I waited until the last week of qualifying for the backup to arrive and be prepared. And that car was just more of a challenge. We couldn't find speed with it until the very, very end. We had to make big swings to try to find speed to qualify. And it was just a vicious turn one that day with a lot of the wind. I think Billy Bowe crashed. Brian crashed. I think there was 5 or 6 crashes in turn one. And mine really would have crashed. I spun late and a little bit more like the Danny Sullivan spin. And if I was probably more a veteran, I probably would have done what Sullivan did and spin and not crash. And I didn't. I corrected the wheel a little bit and hung on, and the car went around and the wheels returned, and it just got up and slapped the wall, and that was the end. And we went to Vegas after failing to qualify and tested, and actually ran fairly fast. But the sponsor at the time decided that they were going to go on a hiatus, and so the money dried up. And then that was actually the team that started the truck team that I started in NASCAR. The NASCAR Series, and especially the Truck Series, aligned more with the IWX Motor Freight's sponsorship, and so we went that direction.
Well, at least you got to partially realize your dream.
Yeah, to be at the speedway, to run at speed. I ran a lap at 228 miles an hour. It was going to take 220 to make the show that year at 221. So, I got to the thrill of that. There will always be a void of not being able to make the field and start a race and being so close. But, a few years after racing, I had to kind of realize that those were not even goals and dreams when I was even a child. There was no hope for that coming out of Meridian, Idaho. So everything I got to do beyond the Meridian Speedway was more than I ever believed I could have achieved. So those were all just pluses. Those were just all, in addition to what I'd hoped to do. So I always consider myself very blessed to be able to experience all of that. And learn from that, just going through that learning process of going through that journey and trying to really enjoy the journey of what I got to do. To race now to hear that the fairgrounds in Indianapolis are going to run their last race, which, I almost won a Silver Crown race. I led with 18 laps to go and caught some lap traffic, and Phil got around me to go on and win and run second there and lead the national championship in the Silver Crown cars and just, do so much that I got to experience. And I don't, but I captured the journey as much as I wished I would have at the time. And now my son plays baseball competitively. He's getting ready to go to college in a year to play baseball. And that I learned what I didn't pay attention to, and from that, helping him capture those moments in this journey as he goes through recruitment trips and he's getting attention and getting opportunities and playing with these amazing baseball teams, that we capture that so that 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, he gets to remember what he was a part of. So if I learned all of that for that, that's more than enough.
That's good to hear. Now, Randy, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to do this, and I just want to say I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's it's been 20 plus years since I've raced a car, and the racing world continues to go by. I watch it. I love all forms. I'm not one that's partial to one or the other. There's a lot of friends in the sport, and it treated me incredibly well, and it taught me more about life and about business than I would have ever imagined. And it's an honor still to be asked to talk about it, and it helps me relive some of those fine days that I got to in the present. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.